Hello everybody and welcome to Parashat Vayechi. This evening is in fact the yahrzeit of my beloved father-in-law, Mr. Howard Glynn. Yehei zichro baruch, may his memory be for a blessing and may he continue to be a melitz yosher and intercede on behalf of all our family, community and all of Am Yisrael. I want to dedicate today's brief message and Torah thought to his memory, and his neshama should have an aliyah. With the rising cases in the UK, we are back to wearing masks in most settings indoors, notwithstanding the discomfort for many people in wearing them. I think there is another challenge, an element, a nuance to the challenges of wearing face masks, and that is being able to read the facial expressions of people. Science Daily recently published a study that explored if children are able to read facial expressions if other people are wearing masks. So what they did was that children were shown pictures of facial expressions and asked to describe the emotion, and they were given 6 different choices of emotions. If they saw an unmasked face, the young children correctly identified about 66% of the emotions. When they were shown a masked face, they correctly identified only about 25% of the emotions. In this week's parsha, before Yaakov gives his blessings to Ephraim and Menashe, he says the following to Yosef: "Vayomer Yisrael Yosef re'eh panecha lo filalti, v'hineh hera oti Elokim gam et zarecha." I never expected to see you again. And what has God done? He's let me see your children as well. What does that mean? Yaakov had seen Yosef so many times since arriving in Egypt. And what does the word pilalti mean? The Al-Sheikh suggests that pilalti comes from the word to judge. And what Yaakov was saying, that for 22 years, when he was unsure if Yosef was alive, he never made the judgment call. What would Yosef look like if he would be alive? He just assumed it would not be the same after living years and years in a foreign, perverse world that was Egypt at the time. But now that he knew Yosef intimately, and he knew his family and his children, he stood back in awe that he would never have judged in his mind that Yosef would have had and kept the same refinement as a Jew when he disappeared, but even more so, and even more remarkable, that he passed those Jewish values on to his children. Rav Lag points out that Rav Shalom Rokeach, the Belzer Rebbe, asks, the Torah introduces this whole conversation by telling us, Enei Yisrael kavedo zaken lo yuchal lirot, that Yaakov's eyes were growing heavy from the fact that he was old and he couldn't see. But if Yaakov couldn't see, how can he say, Re'eh panecha lo filalti, I never expected to see you again? Furthermore, in the previous pasuk it says, Vayar Yisrael b'nei Yisrael bayomer mi'eleh. If he couldn't see, why ask who they are? And if he could see, why doesn't he recognize them from when they had met before? So the Belzer Rebbe answers that Yaakov had deep vision. And what I mean by that is that he could discern their spiritual character. When Yosef brought in his children, Yaakov didn't physically recognize them because his eyesight wasn't great. But when Yosef said, these are my children, Dad, Yaakov took a deeper look into their spiritual character, and it's at that point that he gives them a bracha. Friends, I don't think we're on the level of Yaakov. We can't see people's spiritual characters. And when we interact with people who are masks, it's the reality of our times in 2021 that our ability to see their emotions, I think, is impaired. It's masked. But we must never forget that facial expressions are such an important part of our interactions with people. So maybe we have to compensate in other ways. Maybe we have to pay more attention to the sounds of the voice, to the nuances in the body language. Our interactions these days, whether in shul, whether in the shops, whether in the supermarkets, may sometimes feel a little cold, may sometimes feel a little sterile. But we have to do our best to make them warm, to make them friendly. Shabbat Shalom.